Okay, so in this video we will see the next practice test and related to the DP-900 exam, Azure Data Fundamental exam. So let's begin. So question number one: which activities can be performed entirely by using the Microsoft Power BI? So Microsoft Power BI is basically a reporting tool. So which two activities? So we need to select two option out of four. So it's a reporting activity. So by looking at the option, we can easily say report sharing and distribution and report and dashboard creation. So we can create a report or dashboard creation using the Power BI, and we can also share the report. Data modeling and data acquisition is the wrong. Azure Synapse Analytics is used to perform your complex queries and aggregation. So in this question, what we have to say, whatever is mentioned in this like square brackets, we have to see whether whatever they mentioned in the square bracket is correct, or whether we can replace this particular statement with any of the below statement. So Azure Synapse Analytics is used to perform very complex queries and aggregations. So that is absolutely correct. So no change is required. So it is not used to create the dashboard, that is for the Power BI functionality, and is used to enable large number of users. So that is also wrong. Alter statement is used to include adding include another column. So that is also correct. If we have to add another column, so we have to use the alter statement. So no change needed. Okay, so we have given this expense table, and this is the output. So we have to write some query. So by looking at this so we have given date, expense type and amount, and what are the two fields in the output table? Date and amount. So in the select query, so we have to give select date and amount, right? And from expense table. Okay, but in the amount, we could see all the 1 January, 1st January 2021 get sum up, and 5th January amount get sum up, 6th January amount get sum up. So we have to select date and then amount, but we have to use the sum function on the amount from expense, and then we are ordering it by date, like 1st January, then 5th and 6th. So we have to group it by date. So correct answer is we have to sum up. So sum option is here and this. So rest two are wrong. So select date, sum as amount, from expense, group by date. So select expense type, but we are selecting the date. So this is the correct option. Okay, so you need to store data in Azure Blob storage for 7 years, right? So the retrieval time of data is unimportant. So solution is to minimize the cost. So hot data is which storage tier we will use. So hot data we will use when we have to continuously use the data. So cool data, like whenever, let's suppose we have to use the data within 30 days only once. But archival data is like, let's suppose you have to use the data in uh, approximately 6 months, 1 year. So here it is mentioned 7 years, so we will use the archive. An exact file Excel file, sorry, an Excel file containing user data saved in Blob storage account. In example of what type of data, so whether it's streaming data or batch data, so it is a batch data. So few of the questions in this practice test also cover in the previous practice test as well. So you could see many questions are repeated. So whenever the file is at rest, so it is batch data. Whenever file any data is coming and runtime, so that is called as streaming data. Which type of non-relational data store supports flexible schema? So which data support? So it is a document based. Okay, so we have to given two options. We have to select whether these options are correct or not. So Azure Cosmos DB table API supports multiple read replicas. Azure Cosmos DB table API supports multiple write regions. So that both options are correct. Okay, so you have a data stored in ADLS, that is Azure Data Lake Storage System, in text format. You need to load the data into the Azure Synapse Analytics. So what you have to do, which two components? So this data we need to put into the Azure Synapse Analytics. So we have to put external data. So first we need the external source to connect ADLS to Azure Synapse Analytics. Along with that, we have to need the external format. Like what is the external format of this data, so that we can load the data. So these two components we need. So we have to select only two components. Internal we don't need. Okay, so does normalization requires elimination relationship between database tables or wrong? Does normalizing a database redundancy reduces data redundancy? So that is correct. Does normalization improve data integrity? That is also correct. So one and two are correct. Like in third option, like it is mentioned, like does normalization involve eliminating relationship? But that is totally wrong. Even using the normalization, we are dividing one table into the multiple table and setting the relationship. So that is totally opposite. Okay. What are the example of unstructured data? So log files, blob storage, and the CSV files. Okay. So which Azure database would be considered infrastructure as a service? So whenever we start the SQL into a particular VM, so then it is called a infrastructure as a service. Okay. So match the type of activities for the appropriate Azure data factory. So in the Azure data factory, basically we can make a pipeline for the data flow. So we have to drag and drop these three options, right? So if you read last two option, data movement and data transformation, then you can easily able to solve all these option. So let's see. Okay, data movement has been given copy, and data transformation. So data transformation, I believe it should be the mapping the data flow, and the data movement is copy. So data movement is like moving the data from one place to another, we copying the data. And transformation is like we are mapping. So let's suppose there is this date format to map to the some another date format, and rest is the control is the until. So okay, what is the good primary key? So ID is the good primary key. Okay, and ETL process requires which thing? So what is ETL? ETL is extract, transform, and load. So before loading anything, we should have to transform the data. So data that is fully processed before being loaded to the target database. So data should be fully processed before loading, because we are loading extract, transform, and then load. Okay, we have to tell what is table, what is view, what is index, what is normalization. Okay, so what is a table? A table is a database object that holds the data. Alright. Okay, and what is view? So view is view doesn't hold the data, but is a subset of a table for the query. So a database object which content is defined in a query. Index is improve our retrieval time. So option D looks correct. Which among the following statement is true with respect to the Azure SQL database? Okay, so you can use existing Microsoft SQL Server license to reduce the cost. Okay, you must apply patches. So no, that is wrong, because Azure SQL database is like a platform as a service, or is a platform as a service, or so we don't need to apply the patches, Azure automatically apply the patches. So we don't need even subscription. But if we have the existing license, then we can use that, so it will reduce our cost. So option B looks correct. Okay, what is the batch workload? So uh, if we look these options, so we can easily eliminate last two options. Like batch workload will not process the data in the real time. So that is wrong, because batch data is that data which sits at one place. And that this option C is also wrong, process data in memory row by row. So that is also wrong. So only two options left: collect data and then process when a condition is met, and collect and process data at most daily. So it is not necessary that we have to process the data daily. So whenever the condition is met, only when the data will be processed. So option A is correct. So ARM template, the format of their template is a JSON format. Okay, this is also the repeated question. Azure Data Studio is supported on, so it's supported on across all the three platforms. So Windows, Mac, and Linux. Okay, what are the good common characteristics of the relational database? So in the relational we have the foreign keys. So data stored in the rows and columns. So database prevent deletion of parent record if a child record exists. Okay, so analytics answer. So why did it happen? So when we have to say why did it happen? So it comes under the diagnostic because we have to do the diagnostic analysis. So analytics, like, to understand why this particular scenario has been happen. Okay, so we have given some JSON documents, so we have to like answer like okay, so they have given few things. So whether customer is a nested array, whether customer is a root object, whether customer is a nested object. So if we correctly look at the JSON document, so customer is our root object. So customer should be root object, and address and social media. So address is our like nested, and social media is a like nested array, because if you see like we have the square bracket, so it show the list of array. So social media is array, and like address is a like nested. So customer is a root object, social media is a nested array, address is a nested object. Okay. So which of the following tool can be used in Mac operating system to access data stored in the Azure SQL database? Okay, so we have the Azure Storage Explorer. So using that Explorer, we can easily like view the data. So which is used to access data stored in the Azure storage account. So 1 minute. What is the previous question? Data stored in the Azure SQL database. I think looks correct only. So that is used to access data stored in the Azure storage account. Okay. Azure Storage Explorer. I think previous answer should be Data Studio SQL database, because we have to. Because Azure Data Studio is like an interface, an interactive interface in which we can run the query by just like selecting the database. So we can select the Azure SQL database, manage instance, so and we can run the query. So I think it should be the correct answer, Azure Data Studio. And in this we have to like access the data stored in the Azure storage account. So here it should be the Azure Storage Explorer. Which of the following Azure activity services can be used to provision Apache Spark cluster? So for the Apache Spark cluster, we have to select two options. One is the Databricks and one is the HD side. So time series is wrong, and log analytics is also wrong. Like few questions we can, if even if we don't know, we can like easily eliminate, because we have to like select two answer. We can easily eliminate option number B and option number D. Okay, so you manage an application that store data in a shared folder or in a Windows server. Okay, you need to move the shared folder to Azure storage. So this is the files and folder. So out of this, which we will use, so we will use the file storage, because we have to store the folder. By default, each Azure SQL database protected by whether firewall, a server level firewall, or network security group. So whenever like a Azure SQL database is created, so automatically it's like protected by the a server level firewall. Okay, Dash API of Cosmos DB can be used for the column based data. So for the column based data, we have the Cassandra. Gremlin is for the graph. MongoDB is the like the document based, table is just for the table. Gremlin is for graph. Cassandra is the column based data. Next question. What are the services in Azure that can use to ingest the data? So IoT hub and the event hub are used for the to ingesting the data. We have to select two options. Okay, so we have to choose like the basically the definition, what is firewall, encryption, authentication, or basically when we will use. So let's read. So what is firewall? So firewall is just like prevent from one network to another network. So firewall is prevent access to an Azure SQL database from another network. So that is correct. Encryption is basically ensure that sensitive data never appears as a plain text. So we will encrypt the data. And authentication is like whenever we try to access some service, we should have to like sign on. So option B looks correct. Okay, relational data uses dash concept to enforce relationship between tables. So it uses the concept of the keys, that is the primary key, foreign key. Okay, so we have to select like descriptive analysis, diagnostic. Okay, so if we read the option, why did sale increase last month? So we have to like diagnose like why this particular thing happened. So it should come under the diagnostic analytics. So let's eliminate. So diagnostic analytics. So this is wrong. Diagnostic analytics. Why did the sale? This option C looks correct. Option D also correct. So by looking at the option number one only. So but option number A, option number B already eliminated. So now we have only two options left. Okay. How do I allocate my budget to buy different inventory items? So how do I allocate? So like basically like when we have the data, so what should I do? So it come under the prescriptive analysis, and the rest is the predictive analysis. Okay, so what is the non-relation database, or what is it, what its characteristics? So its characteristics like it is schema free or have relaxed schema. A relation database must be used when, so when we have to use, so when we have to key value pair, so that is wrong. When we have to store image is wrong. When we have dynamic schema, wrong. So when we have to like make a strong consistency guarantee is required. Okay, so your manager assigned you a task to find out a way to extract employee name from a thousand of PDF. So basically we have to use the concept of the OCR, and it's come under the cognitive analysis. Okay, so we have to read the data from the data warehouse. So uh, basically online analytics processing will be used. So whenever like this analysis will be always be performed on a huge amount of data. So and huge amount of data is stored in the data warehouse. So OLAP is correct. You have an Azure the Cosmos DB account that uses the uh, core SQL API. Which settings can you configure at the container level? Okay, so whenever like you set up this account, so we have basically two options, whether one is a throughput option and one is the primary partition key option. Okay, so we have to like assign in hierarchy. So on the top level, first we have to take the subscription, then we have to create a resource group. So subscription should be on the top, then resource group. So option number A wrong, option number C also wrong. And then we have to create the storage account, then queue storage, no, wrong. So in the file storage only we will store the folders and the files. Okay, so we have to read these three like statements and select whether all this correct or wrong. So a wind turbine sends 100 sensor reading per second is an example of a streaming workload. So that is correct, because the data is coming as a real time. Your credit card will generate every month is an example of batch data. So that is also correct. Salary credit to your account is an example of a batch workload. So that is also correct. Okay, so for day-to-day operations, we will use the OLTP, online transaction processing. Okay, so we have to drag and drop these four options. Okay, so okay, if I read option number three, like used to encrypt data in motion. So the most suitable option is like transport layer security. So whenever the data will be go through the transport layer, so it is like used to like TLS, when we have to use this layer, TLS layer, so used to encrypt data in a motion when the database server and clients using certificate based encryption. So out of these option, transport layer security used to encrypt data in motion, correct. Used to data encryption in motion, correct. So that is also correct. Okay, so so option number A is wrong. So now we have the three option left. Okay, so it is a always encrypted. So always encrypted means like whether the data is in motion, whether the data is at rest, it should always be encrypted. So used to protect sensitive data by limiting access to data at rest, or either it is in movement or it is used in client. So always encrypted, so this is correct. So this is wrong, and this is also wrong. So option number B looks correct. And like transparent data encryption means like used to encrypt data at rest. And dynamic data masking is like used to limit exposure of sensitive data to non-privileged user by designing how much of the sensitive data can be revealed. So we have to do the masking. So basically like related to the sensitive data. Which Azure Data Factory component provides the compute environment for activities? So I think that the integration runtime is the answer. An Azure, so okay, so an Azure SQL database includes a fully managed backup service, so that is correct. Azure SQL database has built-in high availability, so that is also correct. Azure SQL database use Azure threat advanced threat protection, that is also correct. It is a platform as a service, so also all the things like backup, high availability, all these things are like automatically provided. Your company needs to implement a Azure relational database, so the solution must minimize ongoing maintenance, like minimize maintenance. So if we have the like the relation database in our like on premises, and we have to use the same database into Azure, so the best option is just use as a platform as a service, Azure SQL database. So let's see if anything is wrong. Okay, so all the questions are correct, so thank you.